Okay, now I think we're cooking. I hope everyone's having a beautiful Thursday. The Kickstarter campaign is live, and it's already cooking. It's fantastic. Let me see if this chat is working. Hello, people of Earth. So that appears to be at least appearing on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's going to appear on Facebook as well. Let me see if I can view this on... Oh, my computer is warming up. I can hear it. I'm gasping for air. View on Facebook. Let's see if I can do this without breaking everything. Hey, yeah, we seem to be live. I'm gasping for air. View on Facebook. Let's see if I can mute myself on Facebook. Okay, yeah, we're alive. Fantastic. All right, so we're gonna. So about 3 weeks ago, I became Twitch exclusive because I'm on the Twitch affiliate program. So you haven't been seeing me stream to YouTube and to Facebook as much. Lee, hello, nice to see you, and I can see the chat and the doobly-doo. I was on here a minute ago, but then I was realizing that the music I was using might not be YouTube friendly, so I've had to tweak a few things. It's good to see you. Yeah, so the Kickstarter's live. These little minis that I've been sculpting for ages. It feels like ages. It's been 5 months. I was looking at one of the minis I'd created in January, and oh my goodness, it bears no resemblance to the minis we have here. I did get some larger resin prints created, and I think they turned out fantastic. I don't know if they'll be able to show up on the screen, but these are like double size. So if someone orders the STL files, they can just get these printed through any vendor on Etsy at the larger size. So if you want to have a sculpture and not just a wee mini. So this is a full-scale resin print. It arrived from the vendor called Simon's Magic Shop on Etsy, who I've been working with, and they're great. And next to it is the mini as it would be on that's assembled with the kit. It's kind of like model making, but there's like 5 parts, or in this case 9 parts, because all those little arrows that are sticking out of our hero, like each one of those is an individual part, but you can see the photos on the campaign page where the arrow just slides right in. Yes, it's on Kickstarter. There should be a link in the description, or that at the bottom of the screen you might see occasionally it'll flash on there. Bit.ly. Where? What can I do? Oh, I'll put it in chat. I can put it in chat. What am I talking about? I have the power. Bit.ly/TMA minis. I think that'll work. I'm going to click it and hopefully not break my computer. Yeah, there we go. And there's lots of photos of the minis I've actually got to assemble. And yeah, it was a whole lot of fun. It took about an hour, but I was taking lots of photos along the way, and I was very nervous about it. I'm not much of a crafty I really like lots and lots of levels of undo. I'm spoiled by the computer. And so it was surprising to see... I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. This is my first Kickstarter video where I didn't do I'm sorry, the first Kickstarter campaign where I didn't do a video. I started recording them and I just feel kind of out of my depth. This is in the tabletop gaming section of Kickstarter, and I'm much more of a comics guy. Dee, hello! Nice to see you. So a lot of my campaigns have been in the comics and webcomics section of Kickstarter, and that's kind of my safe space. I know what I'm doing. I feel like, okay, that's my people. So this is in the gaming section, and it's a whole other world, and I know I'm not native. I mean, I've been playing D&D and role-playing games forever. The red box and blue box editions of D&D. I played, Star Frontiers and Gamma World and the FASA Star Trek game, and even the James Bond role-playing game, and Villains and Vigilantes, and the Marvel Superheroes game. I mean, I still have my decrepit box from the dawn of time, full of amazing artwork. Some John Byrne artwork in here. There's Stephen Butler. But the Marvel superhero game, I mean, I was an RPG guy forever. I mean, having even created a couple of my own as a kid. And so it was great. It's just been great to have this fun thing. So anyway, I'm a big gamer. I really got back into 5e, D&D 5e with the pandemic because, staying at home. Everyone's got Zoom and cameras suddenly, and so we're playing online. Oh, do you really, D? That's fantastic. Yeah, a big gaming nerd like Traveler, and there was a Roaring Twenties role-playing game called Gangbusters that TSR did. I think they produced like 3 or 4 modules, and it was produced by some of like the key D&D people who I think just happen to be like fans of gangster films and Sam Spade and all that stuff. So we didn't play it a lot, but I do know we at least rolled up characters. So anyway, big gaming nerd, and I've wanted to have minis of these characters since this comic strip launched in 2016. And I just couldn't find a sculpt. As you can see behind me, I love little sculpts. I love sculptures, and the Disney Infinity characters were particularly inspirational to me in terms of how they were all moving and the chunkiness of them, how they were kind of off model but still identifiable as the characters. And so I taught myself to sculpt. Started 6 months ago using Nomad Sculpt on an iPad Pro, and all of these models. Let me see, can I do this? How can I do this? I can hide the Kickstarter. That's my iPad screen. I can hide my iPad screen and the minis. So those were all sculpted on an iPad Pro using the Nomad Sculpt app, which is about a $15 program. I'm a total novice, but I will say that I know these characters. I know these characters probably better than anybody. They've been in my head. I know them from every I take that back. I was going to say I know them from every angle, but that's just not true. I didn't really know... How do I put that below that? I didn't really know Baby Dragon Jarn from all those sides. The sculpting them really helped me understand the character. So this character here, Baby Dragon Jarn, and their brother Niddles, or their sibling Niddles, I kind of knew the character from the 3/4 view, maybe the front view, and maybe this complete side view. But certain angles, I just wouldn't draw them because I was not comfortable. I didn't really understand them in a 3D way. So making the sculpt actually helped me understand my characters in a better way. But I'm super excited. There's a lot of fun stuff. If you check out the campaign page, I'll put that in the chat again if people missed it. There's a short URL called bit.ly. I spelled it like my Conley, like my own last name. TMA minis, and there's a URL in the bottom of the screen there. But you'll see there's card artwork. So there's little stat cards. If you have a 5e campaign and you want to include the character, you can. Oh, thanks, D. I appreciate it. There's so much fun to do. A bunch of people have said, "Hey, will you sculpt my character?" I'm like, I'm not. I know I can sculpt my characters. I feel like I know them enough, and I'm willing to take liberties with them. Again, like Baby Dragon Jarn, I took some liberties, and Quimp for certain with the armor. There was no way to interpret the way I draw the armor in the comic strip and turn that into 3D. So it was a lot of fun to kind of just go, okay, let's do it the way I want to do it. But man, I'm so happy with it. And the great thing about it is the company I'm using is for the casting is they're called Trenchworks, and they've done minis for gaming. They do a lot of military style stuff, and they're actually a company that was doing molding, casting, and 3D replication of things like with the high-end, for high-end uses, like industrial uses, and they kind of moved into this tabletop space. I bet they had a few employees who are nerds, and they thought, this is a market. And but their machines, the kind of machines that they use for the original casts, the original 3D prints that they use as the masters, are kind of the ones that are used for like molars and caps, and you know, real, you know, absolutely precise, incredibly smooth, detail rich prints. Because when you get these figures, and you see photos on the campaign page, when you see the figures, when you get these, this is essentially like a 4th generation copy of a copy of a copy. Like, there's the 3D model that I create, then there has to be a master print. That master print is used to create the mold, and then within that mold is inserted the resin. So it's really 4th generation by the time you get it. And so the idea that it could maintain all the levels of quality, again, take a look at the photos on the campaign page. You can see the curls in Melvwyn's beard and the stars and moons on Melvwyn's hat. You can see all that stuff. It's there. It's so dazzling. And the crest on Quimp's tabard is there. Ugh. It's such a small size. I don't know how anyone's going to paint them at that size. I don't. It's like a paintbrush with one strand of hair. But it was so cool. And they did a really good job of doing things like, even on Quimp, which is a little more complicated, because it's got all those little arrows and stuff sticking out of them. There was a moment where I took the cape. They separated the cape from the figure. I mean, I molded the cape separately. I sculpted the cape separately from the figure. But when it was a separate piece, it just dropped onto his shoulders. There was like no... I didn't have to think about it. It wasn't like I was fishing around to try to make it line up perfectly. There was a little bit of that with the Bob figure where he's holding the sign, because he has 4 hands holding the sign. And so basically the hands are part of the sign and the sleeves are part of the figure. And so it's like 4 little dabs of glue and pressing it in place. And I used the glue... I'll be right back. I use the Loctite super glue extra time control. This is a very forgiving super glue. It has a little bit of a lag time before it locks into place. So you have to hold it a little bit longer, like 15 or 20 seconds. Lee, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's so sweet. That's fantastic. Yeah, we're doing great. We're doing great. It's a very modest campaign. It's not meant to be gangbusters. It's not gangbusters like the role-playing game. Wasn't meant to blow the doors off, because again, I don't know. I'm not native to the tabletop world, but I mean, I speak the language. I'm fairly fluent. I can get by. I don't know if I'd want to teach a class in English to TTRPG, but yeah, but I just know that one of the big things is that in the tabletop world, a lot of Kickstarters ship late. And that's not fair. But they do a lot of campaign fundraising, and when the campaign collects the money, that's when production begins. Hey, LJ, nice to see you. So when they collect the money, that's when the work begins. Like, they might do a sample chapter or a sample bit of work to show people, and they'll have mock-ups and maybe cover art and things like that. But it really is, they're massive projects. They're doing like really fat books full of lore and rules and lots of complicated stuff. With this campaign, I really wanted most of the work, like 95% of the work, to be done. So the sculpts are done. Not for Waddlebottom. There's a stretch goal with Lord Waddlebottom in it, and that's not. I mean, the model's done, but we haven't gotten the master cast made. We haven't gotten samples made. I have gotten minis printed of him, like 3D printed, but that's not like, you know, to get an individual mini printed costs about $15 to $30 just to get it raw printed without any primer or anything on it. So people who do get the STLs, they can just, and if you're not crafty, that's what I recommend. I know that's probably not the best business decision. I should be like, buy my stuff. But you can see in the campaign page, if you're not feeling crafty, and if you don't want the collectible box, I guess, to get the thing, if you get the STL file, then you can just ask any vendor. You can get a 3D, and if you're not a 3D printer yourself. I know some of my readers actually have resin printers at home, which to me feels like you have to be half engineer, half chemist to make that work. And you need to have strong ventilation because resin is toxic, all that stuff. Liquid resin is toxic. Or the component pieces are, I don't know. Again, you have to be a chemist. But that is a really good option for people who don't want to assemble a figure. But like I said in the campaign page, I had a heck of a lot of fun putting these together. I was surprised the arrows that are in Sir Quimp. There's a hole. You just slide it right in the back, slide it right in. It really worked out really easily. And what kind of fascinating is that the cape is part of the axe is part of the cape. That's a single unit that was printed. So I think the way it was explained to me was that the main parts of the figure, you'll notice in the photograph there's kind of a little texture difference between certain pieces of the figures. Like Sir Quimp's face and his body and his legs are more matte colored. Hey, Jamar, thank you so much. That's and we have a short code for people who don't want to. I think that's right. That should work. Gosh, I hope that works. Nice to see you. So you'll notice there's a slight difference in the texture between pieces of it. Like some aspects of it, specifically the arrows, are shinier, and the cape is shinier than the face and that's mostly just because of how those were put together. So I did have to make it. I hadn't made a short code for Bitly in a while, but I did see how I can customize it, so I could talk with you about that. How I was able to make it to TMA minis. I'll talk to you, Jamar. But it's fascinating. I did ask them if there was one other little thing, because this very first sample. I don't think you could see it on the camera, but if you take a look at the photograph, I'm not great with clippers and stuff, but there was a slight roughness to the front edge of the platform of Sir Quimp and Melwyn, and that was because it was printed, like basically the very tiny bits end up being 3D printed through their high-end equipment. So you've got one section which is poured into casts, and another section, all the fiddly bits are 3D printed, and they come. D, thank you, you're so awesome. And the discs have the middle age stamped in them, even though they're very thin. Boy, it came out great. So these are one of the ones I assembled. And if you get the STL files, again, you can just talk to any 3D printer, and they'll print you a jumbo one. If you just say, you gotta pay for the resin. And this thing's heavy. And anyone who's going to be at Heroes Con in a couple of weeks, next week, gosh, a week from tomorrow, I will have these larger prints available. I got them printed with a dark primer on them. So they're kind of, I don't know if hopefully they're not too difficult to see when they're on the table. But I even got, oh no, I got them, are they primed? They might be primed. Well, I'll tell you what, I will be back in really quickly. I have to I have to put one little cat away to make sure that they don't get fussy, but I will be right back. And we're back. Oh, that's too much stuff all over the screen. There we go. Okay, let's turn this restream off. Let's see how the Kickstarter is doing. We will turn off the... Boy, I've got so many different things on the screen. Minis, go away. Minis Kickstarter. And I think I have to hit the refresh button. Hey, it worked. Hot dog. Fandangtastic. Look at that. We launched about... I don't know, 45 minutes ago? So this is fantastic. Again, I set a very modest goal for this campaign compared to some of the other ones. D says on YouTube, I'll be an artist alley in Baltimore. Will I be at that one? Absolutely. I haven't missed that. Jamar, thank you. And I know this is a weird campaign because it's minis, and not everybody wants minis. It's this whole other thing. It's got to be that Venn diagram of people who like the middle age and like gaming. It's a subset of my audience. I recognize that, but the hope is, and you can see from the campaign page that the very first links are, hey, check out my webcomic. But D, I love the Baltimore Comic-Con. I will be there for sure. I don't know if we've met, so that's great. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love the Baltimore Comic-Con. It's amongst my favorite shows. Baltimore Comic-Con, Small Press Expo, Heroes Con for sure. I'm doing the Savannah Comic-Con for the first time. I'm a guest of that show. I'm mostly excited because Ron Perlman's a guest there, and I would be dying to meet him. Hey, Gamertag23, nice to see you. Jamar on Facebook says I have some game industry buddies who will be into this. Really? That's fantastic. I would love this. I want Matt Colville and Matt Mercer and all the people of Earth to stumble onto this silly thing, mostly to read my comic. Because I'm a cartoonist first and foremost. I was thrilled to sculpt these things. I can't believe I can sculpt. It was like stumbling onto a superpower. Oh, and that's the spam about my webcomic just in time. The robots kicked in. Now, normally I stream exclusively onto Gygax. Yeah, that would be great. But I guess if these figures go well, I hope that they will. If the campaign goes great, I will then. I've got more stuff in mind. There's other characters in the story. We have a stretch goal, if the campaign hits 6,000, to do the Waddlebottom figure. Now, Waddlebottom is the Lord of all Ducks. I don't think I have a still on the screen to show him. Oh, no, wait. I can do this. I can do this. I have powers. I could show you. I will turn off my iPad. Wait, the Minis Kickstarter, but turn on the iPad. So now we're looking at my iPad screen, my browser. So this is the campaign page. And these took a while to do. Ugh, I don't want to get into how I... Okay, so I have the artwork that I created, which is really funky because it is a cartoon drawing of a mini of a cartoon drawing. So it's like... Anyway, so I created these things, and they're fun. They were mostly created with this in mind. These stat cards. I wanted to have stat cards for 5e, so if you're a D&D player, you've got those things. This is the Waddlebottom Mini. So this is like the 6th sculpt I've done. And it's so much better than the first few. It might be too much. It might be the texture on the... It's almost like my first stuff was way cartoony, but I still think in the story, Waddlebottom's always meant to be this real duck in this world of cartoon characters. And so there's kind of a... to me, that's the funny part of it. It's just, it's a duck. It's just a duck, and he's got a crown on his head. And I love this Hulk Hogan pose. So anyway, if we hit the 6K stretch goal, that will be a mini. I've not even talked to the mold people, the casting people about that yet. But there's a simple goal of a sticker. I thought, okay, that'll fit in the box of minis. I wanted, again, I'm trying not to do gigantic things because the idea is these boxes can be small. At 4K, I'll actually do printed stat cards to accompany everything. John, thank you so much. John on Facebook, just back. Thank you so much. At the 4K point, there'd be printed stat cards. And, okay, world exclusive. If we can hit 10K, which is way down, not even on the list yet, the idea would make those a set of, I think it would be 10K, would be a set, expand the set to include other weird things, like magic spells. For instance, in the Intoximancy PDF. Okay, that's one of the other stretch goals. We've established in the story that Melvin the Magnificent, the wizard, is a Intoximancer. That he is, he's a magician, but he's kind of fueled by spirits, and it boosts his power. And so I basically wanted to have kind of the drunken master, but of a drunken master of the mystic arts, as it were. And so I've created little spells that this subclass of wizards, if you played 5e and you say, I want to be an Intoximancer, these are the rules. Like, you have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Like, of course you are. Dexterity on athletics saving and strength saving throws, because you're, you know, a little soused. And but it gives you other benefits. And my favorite one is a cantrip. A cantrip in D&D 5e is a thing that's a spell that a character can cast once per turn. I think. Maybe there are rules about that. No, there's sometimes bonus. Anyway, I won't get into it. Let's fight with your DM about it. The idea would be this is cantrip called Cheers. And as an Intoximancer, you raise your glass to somebody and they have to make a saving throw, or they'll cheer you back. They can't help themselves. They're just caught in the moment and they cheer you back. And it eats up their reaction, which is a D&D thing, and does a little bit of embarrassment damage, psychic damage to them. So to me, that's the sort of thing that these cards will have. It'll be built in the Intoximancer class. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make that, whether we get that stretch goal or not. But I like the idea of making it something that's a bonus that everybody gets. So the stretch goals are fun. Fingers crossed we get there. Thank you all so much. Again, my safe space is the webcomic and comics world. This is my first time over in Kickstarter's tabletop area. I'm out of my depth. So everything about this has been, like, modest. It's the lowest goal I've ever had in the campaign. But holy cow, was that tough to make. Those were created in Photoshop. That's probably not the right way to do it. Using the timeline tools in Photoshop. Oh my goodness, 24 backers. We are so close to the goal already. So normally I am streaming exclusively on Twitch. I appreciate everyone here on the YouTubes and the Facebooks so much. But I'm going to switch over to Twitch shortly. If you do want to join me there, please do. It is twitch.tv/Steve Conley. They do throw some ads at you at the beginning, but I think it's just a few. And then once you get through that hurdle, you know, there's just more bells and whistles and fun stuff. And also, okay, while you're here, I'm not crazy. It's not Tuesday, January 9th at 9:41 a.m. That, for some reason, my iPad has said in that upper corner that since, I guess, on that day. It's sort of, I guess that's a Back to the Future moment where I was hit by lightning or something like that. That's a key moment, so someone keep track of that. So if there's a time travel problem, 9:41 on January 9th is when you have to go back to save my life. The rest of my computer, my iPad here seems to know what time it is and day it is. It has everything else correct, but that, for some reason, kablooey. But 25 backers, I love you. For some reason, my iPad isn't hitting me up with the notifications. I don't think my phone is either. Kickstarter used to always ping me every time something happened on the page. I want to turn that back on. It was sort of like it was my heartbeat. Every time there'd be something, every time there was a backer, it's like, okay. It's that moment where your character's flashing. Tom! Thank you so much. Tom on Facebook. Tom, I have so many questions for you. Do you feel, Tom is the genius behind a lot of things. Most recently, Rocket Ship Entertainment, and they do a ton of Kickstarters. They're fantastic. Do you feel this pressure every time you hit the launch button? I do this and I'm like, this is gonna fail. This is gonna fail so hard. But again, I tell myself that even if you don't hit the goal, that you can always just start the campaign over again, reevaluate, cut costs in some way. And I also think that if a campaign ever doesn't succeed, that if you redo the campaign, all the people who were there before will likely come back unless a life situation has changed. 90% of the people who backed you the first time will come back a second time. So I feel like it's something you could take a couple of bites of that apple. But I don't know. Every time I launch, I'm like, oh, I can change the graphic one more time. Oh, I can tweak the price, or I could fix this, or do I have the shipping corrector? And this campaign is like, again, I'm so out of my depth. It's just the page scrolls and scrolls. I've got like, I also feel like these minis are kind of like crafting projects. And I want to warn people about that. I don't want people to think they're going to get a box and out comes this. My figures are way too complicated for that. I mean, there's all these arrows. Let me get the large print. There are all these arrows sticking out of him. There was no way for a single mold to just pop that open without, the first model maker I talked to, they were brilliant, but they said, okay, let's simplify this character down. Let's not have the arrows. When you see most minis, they're kind of flat. They're basically, they're designed with a mold in mind to be a single unit. And you just have to do it that way. If you want this piece to be a single unit, you kind of have to build it that way. But my models, the ones I think about, are like, these Disney Infinity figures that are all bent and twisted, and these were assembled. They had to be. There's no way to have something like that. I take that back. This might be large enough for a mold. But you can see the seams in a lot of these figures. Anyway, please tell yourself it will succeed on the first attempt. Just humor. Thank you, LJ. Yeah, I tell myself that. I worry a lot, but I think that's part of it. I pre-invest a lot of worry, and that does things like lower the goal, and that way, I think we'll hit it. We'll hit the goal. Again, it's that weird Venn diagram of people who like the middle age and people who want to have minis, and so I don't know. But thank you all so much. You're fantastic. We're going to switch over to Twitch, twitch.tv Steve Conley. I've got to change some settings behind the scene here on, I don't know if that's being shown over on Facebook as well. But if it isn't, twitch.tv/Steve Conley. You'll see me there in 15 minutes. I've got to switch internet cables here. And you know what? We've been doing this over the Wi-Fi, and we have very few drop frames. So kudos to my new Wi-Fi router. I didn't even think about running the cable, but I'm definitely going to do that too. I'm going to run cable in here for Twitch, and yeah. But thank you all so much. We've been streaming for 33 minutes with only 58 drop frames. That's pretty flawless. And we have 26 backers, and we're 3/4 of the way there. So you are awesome. Yeah, I'll see everybody on Twitch, and I'll pop in later on. We'll do another stream later on tonight about maybe where we are, and yeah, it's also for the West Coast crowd. You're the best, and I will